All right, let's get right into it. We're not talking about classic turning and burning dogfights today. No, we are going way beyond that, into the world of beyond visual range combat. This is a high-tech duel where the deadliest enemy you face is one you'll literally never see. Just picture it for a second. You're screaming along at 30,000 feet, faster than the speed of sound. Your opponent? They're just a tiny blip on a radar screen, maybe 50, 60, 70 miles away. This is a lethal game of chess played with billion-dollar jets and missiles that think for themselves. So the big question is, how do you not just survive, but actually win this invisible fight?
So, how do you win this unseen duel?
Well, it's not about having the fastest jet, and it's not about being the best pilot in a tight turn. It's about mastering the fundamentals of this invisible battlefield long before you ever get close enough to see the other guy. And what's so fascinating about BVR is that it isn't really about raw flying skill. I mean, that helps, but this is a thinking person's game. It's all about managing information, understanding geometry, and most critically, conserving your energy. And when you're in the thick of it, your priorities have to be crystal clear, and they are always in this exact order. Number one, without a doubt, is defend against incoming missiles. You can't shoot back if you're a smoking hole in the ground. Only then do you worry about figuring out what's going on around you and getting yourself in a position to fire back. To fight in this invisible arena, you really only need two things. You need eyes that can see in the dark, and you need a spear that can reach across miles of empty sky. So let's talk about your most important tools, your radar and your missiles. The easiest way to think of your radar is like a super powerful flashlight in a pitch-black room. It cuts right through the darkness to find things, which is great, but it also gives away your position to anyone else who's looking. And your missiles? Well, that's your spear. They're incredibly deadly at a distance, but you have to remember that each one has a very limited fuel tank. Once that rocket motor burns out, that missile is just a useless piece of falling metal. This diagram here shows exactly how that radar flashlight works. It's all based on the Doppler effect. Same reason a train horn sounds higher pitched as it comes towards you and then lower as it moves away. It's the same principle. When an enemy jet is flying towards you, the radar waves bouncing off it get compressed, creating a higher frequency. If it's flying away, those waves get stretched out, making a lower frequency. And by measuring that shift, your jet knows exactly which way the bad guy is going and how fast. Now, when it comes to those spears, you've basically got three main types. A Fox 2 is your classic heat seeker. A Fox 1 is a bit older. It needs you to keep your radar pointed at the target for the whole flight. But the real star of our show is the Fox 3. This is the fire and forget missile. It has its own little radar in its nose, which makes it the weapon of choice for pretty much all modern BVR combat. Okay, so you've got your tools, you know how they work. Now we get to the fun part, the tactical back and forth, this high-speed, high-stakes exchange that I like to call the dance of missiles. Okay, this slide right here, this is everything. It shows the probability of kill, or PK for short, for your missile at different ranges. From your perspective, the shooter, you have RMAX, which is a really long-range, low-chance shot. But as you get closer, you enter what's called the AMAR, or minimum abort range. Now for the defender, this is the no-escape zone. If a missile gets fired at you from inside this range, you can't just turn and run anymore. You have to fight it. So the simplest tactic, right, is to just point your nose straight at the enemy and fire. This gets your missile to the target in the absolute shortest amount of time, which means it has the most energy when it gets there. But, and this is a huge but, you're also flying directly into their missile's best-case scenario. It's a trade, and in this business, you never, ever want to trade. And this is where the pros really separate themselves from the amateurs. Right after firing, you perform a maneuver called the crank. You turn to put the enemy on the very edge of your radar's view. You can still see them, your missile's still getting updates, but you're forcing their missile to fly a much longer, curving path to get to you. This bleeds its energy and seriously increases your odds of survival. So the whole point of doing that is to maximize this concept called the F-pole. The F-pole is just the distance between you and your target at the exact moment your missile hits them. A bigger F-pole means you're further away, which means you're safer. In a BVR duel, the first person to get a kill almost always wins the fight, so maximizing your F-pole is how you shoot without getting shot back. But what if you're the one being shot at? Well, your number one defense is called the notch. Remember how we said pulse Doppler radars are designed to filter out stationary things on the ground, like buildings and hills? By flying at a perfect 90-degree angle to the enemy's radar, you can trick it. You make your closing speed relative to it basically zero. The enemy radar thinks you're just more ground clutter, and for a moment, poof, you become invisible. And executing it is a simple 3-step process. First, you turn to put the incoming missile directly off your wing at your 3 or 9 o'clock. Second, you adjust your own flight path to make sure your speed towards him is 0. And third, you punch out some chaff. These are just little strips of aluminum foil to create a bigger, more attractive radar target for the missile to go after instead of you. And look, if all else fails, if the notch doesn't work, there's the simplest defense of all, the drag. You turn 180 degrees, light the afterburner, and just run for your life. The whole goal here is to make that missile chase you down low through the thick, soupy air near the ground, forcing it to burn every last drop of fuel it has. But sometimes neither side gets a clean kill at range. The distance just keeps shrinking, the missiles are defeated, and that BVR duel is about to get very, very personal. It's about to become a visual range and knife fight. And it all comes down to that critical line in the sand we talked about, the MAR. Crossing the MAR is not an accident, it is a conscious, deliberate decision. It means you are committing to the merge, there is no turning back, you are accepting that the only way out is through the enemy. Because inside the MAR, the whole game changes. It's not about missile energy anymore. It's about nose position. Victory is decided by one simple thing. Who can get their nose pointed at the other guy first, creating a positional advantage to use their weapons while the enemy can't shoot back? So how do we tie all this together? How do we take all these different concepts, the crank, the notch, the MAR, and build them into a single winning game plan? Well, for a lot of modern pilots, the answer is a strategy called launch and decide. It's an aggressive, proactive plan that beautifully combines offense and defense into one single fluid motion. Here's how it works. You launch your missile at maximum range. The moment it's off the rails, you immediately perform a defensive maneuver, like a crank or a notch, to defeat whatever they might have shot back at you. Then comes the decide part. You check your screens. Did your maneuver break their radar lock on you? If yes, you turn back in and press the attack. If they're still locked onto you, you abort and run away. The point is, you fight on your terms. So let's just quickly recap the absolute keys to victory. Survive first, always. Control the distance with your maneuvers. Know your shot zones, especially RMAX and MAR. Fly your game plan, like launch and decide. Don't just react to what the enemy does. And finally, never ever forget that your altitude and your speed are your lifeblood. In this game, energy is life. At the end of the day, BVR combat is the ultimate test of tactical discipline and situational awareness. It's not really about reflexes. It's about strategy. So, when that first unidentified radar contact appears on your screen, what's going to be your opening move?